We begin the Gemara 3 lines from the bottom of the page on Daf Chavav Amud Beis, where it says Eisvei Ravina L'Rava. So this is the middle of a sugya discussing what it said in the Mishnah on Daf Chafei Amud Beis, the opinion of Beis Hillel. It's an argument between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai whether when part of a neder is mutter, does that mean that now the entire neder is mutter? The lashon that the Gemara brought, Rabbi Akiva says, do I say neder shehuta miktsasa yehuta kuloi, or no? Whatever part of the neder you realize was a mistake, that part of the neder becomes mutter, but the rest of the neder remains as is. So there was a machlokes here between Rabba and Rava. In what case are Beis Hillel saying that neder shehuta miktsasa yehuta kuloi? When is there the machlokes here? Rabba's opinion is that it's not only that the person discovered a mistake he made in his neder, but also when he discovers that mistake, he says, the lashon that I used in my neder originally, I wouldn't have used that lashon at all. I would have used a completely different lashon. For example, if the person started off saying, all of you should be aser, and then he discovers his mistake, and he sees, let's say, his father was there picking fruits from his tree. So when he discovers a mistake, either the person could say, I would have said the same neder, I just would have added chutz besides my father. In such a case, Rabbi says there's no machlokes. The original neder stays because you're keeping your original lashon, you're just adding something. In a case where the person says, if I would have known my father is there, I would have changed the whole lashon of the neder. I would have said you and you and you and aser, and that's it, and not my father. His father's not included in that. Rava disagrees. Rava says even if when the person discovers his mistake and he says, I didn't want to include my father, but he's not saying that he would have changed the whole lashon of his neder. He would have made the same exact lashon of the neder that he said before, but I would have added besides my father. Even in that case, Beis Hillel holds, because he would have added besides my father, that changes the whole neder, and we say once the neder is batel on that aspect, the whole entire neder is batel. That was the machlokes the Gemara had before to explain what exactly is the case that Beis Hillel says that the whole neder falls apart. So here the Gemara brings a braise as a question on Rava. Let's see. Ravina asks Rava a question. Rab Nosson says, Yesh neder shemiktsase mutter umiktsase yaser. There's a neder that it could be possible that part of the neder will be mutter, but part of the neder will be yaser. How is this? Keitzad. Nodem and akalkola. Person says he makes a neder not to eat from a basket of figs, and v'hoyu ba b'noy shuach. And then he finds out that amongst these figs, there's a certain type of fig that's called b'noy shuach, which are special figs. And he didn't know that those special figs are here in this basket. Now he says, had I known that you have these special figs inside here, that is, I wouldn't have made a neder on the entire basket. Because these b'nai shuach I do want to eat. So what's the halacha? Hakalkala asura. All the different figs that are in this basket are still going to be asur because of his original neder. But b'nai shuach mutaris. The b'nai shuach, these special figs that he doesn't want to include, it was a mistake. He didn't realize they are going to be mutter. This is what Rav Nosson said. Ad shabar Rabbi Akiva. Till Rabbi Akiva came and v'limed, and he taught the same halacha that Beis Hillel says. Neder shehuta miktsasai huta kulai. Once part of the neder is mutter, you realize you made a mistake. So now the entire neder will be mutter. Like this is Rabbi Akiva said the same thing like Beis Hillel.
That means b'nai shuach is not called b'nai shuach, it's called tainim.
Yeah, it's a certain kind of tainim.
Because if it has a different name,
then it's not. It shouldn't be included b'chlal. You're saying, yeah, okay. But the thing is, though, person used the lashon nodar min hakalkola, so it sounds like he's saying whatever is in the basket. So let's try so. Okay, so the Gemara now says, my love. Now, what exactly is the case over here? We have again this machlokes between Rabbi Akiva and Rab Nosson, which is the same machlokes between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. When part of the neder is mutter, does the whole neder become mutter, or no? I say that it's just that part is mutter. So, my love, don't you think this Bryce is speaking about the Omar? The person now says when he discovers his mistake, had I known that you have these special figs inside, what would have been the language you would have used for his neder? He would have changed completely the whole language of his neder. He would have said, the black figs, the white figs, that I don't want to eat. But the b'nai shuach I do want to eat. Right? In other words, if you have a basket and you have so many different kinds of fruits, different kinds of figs inside, so the Gemara's assumption right now is, why would the person, when he discovers his mistake, he wouldn't have said in the beginning the whole basket should be aser, but the b'nai shuach not. He would have looked into the basket and seen exactly what's inside. Then he would have made the neder only for those specific things that he doesn't want to eat, and the b'nai shuach would be allowed. So what's the point? You see over here that in this case, where the person discovers his mistake, not only does he discover his mistake, but now he realizes that the whole language that he used in his neder originally is not the language he would have used. He would have changed the entire language. And nevertheless, what do you see here in this braise? It's only Rabbi Akiva that says, in such a case, when he changed, he would change the whole language of his neder, the whole neder falls apart. Upligi Rabbanan. And the Rabbanan still disagree. Right, which is over here, it's Rab Nosson. They still disagree and say, no, the part of the neder that you were mater is mutter, but the part that you were not mater is not mutter. So you see over here, it's a question on Rava. Rava said, in the case where the person would change the entire language of his neder, what happens then? Everybody agrees that the whole neder falls apart. Over here we see that it's a case where he would change the whole language of the neder, and it's still a machlokes between Rabbi Akiva and the Rabbanan. So the Gemara says, we don't have to assume that when this person discovers his mistake, he would change the whole language of his neder. Rather, what the person says over here is, the way you see it there, had I known that there's b'nai shuach inside over here, I would have said, kol akalkala asura. He still would have kept the original notion of the neder, that the entire basket is asar, but the b'nai shuach should be mutter. So because he's not changing the original language of his neder, according to Rava, this is the case that Rabbi Akiva and Rab Nosson argue. If he would have changed the whole original language of his neder when he discovers his mistake, so then everybody agrees that the whole neder falls apart. But what we're speaking about over here is that the person wouldn't have necessarily changed the lashon of his original neder. He would say the same lashon as before, he just would have added chutz. In such a case, is the machlokes between Rabbi Akiva and Rab Nosson whether the whole neder falls apart or not. Sagt the Gemara, man Tana, the Tana Rabbanan. Who is the Tana of the following braise that we learned? Nadar mechamisha b'nei adam ke'echad. Person makes a neder, and now he makes the neder of all 5 people at once. Now, hutta le'echad man, hutru kulan. If he realizes that one of those people that he made the neder from is not somebody that he wants should be aser, they all become mutter. But if chutz me'echad man, if he says besides one of them, so then what happens is who mutter, that person that he said except besides him, so then he's going to be mutter. But vehein asurin, all of the rest of them are going to be aser. So now the way the Gemara understands this braise is the braise is not really telling you the full story, because what this braise is saying is the person originally made a neder including all 5 people. And when he made that neder originally, what lashon did he use? He didn't specify all 5 people, because he's asering all of them. So then there's no reason to specify. He just said all of you. All of you, I should be aser to have anah from any of you. Okay? And then afterwards, when he realizes his mistake, that one of those 5 people he doesn't want to be aser from, so now there's 2 ways how he could correct this. When he says that I made a mistake, there's 2 things he could say. What would have been the lashon of my neder that I made before? So that's the difference here between the beginning, the reisha, and the sefer. So in the beginning it says that when he realizes his mistake, so he says, Mechamisha b'nei adam ke'echad, Nada mechamisha b'nei adam ke'echad, hutel echad men hutel kulam, which means that when he realizes his mistake, he says, instead of me saying what I said originally, that I'm making a neder from all of you, using the lashon of kolchem, now he says, I would have said that you are asa, you are asa, you are asa. He would have just said the 5 individuals, and the other person he wouldn't have asked it b'chlal. So in such a case, what does the braisa say? So then they all become mutter, hutru kulan. Okay, hutru kulan. No, hutru kulan. They all become mutter. Why? Because not only did he discover the mistake of his neder, but he also saying that it would have said a completely different lashon that I said in the beginning. But if chutz me'echad man, if when he discovers his mistake, he says, I wouldn't have changed the neder I said before. I just would have said, except him. So then, because he's not changing the whole lashon of his neder, hu mutter v'hein asurin. So then what we say is that only that person is mutter, but the whole neder does not fall apart. The whole neder still remains asur. So now, who is this braisa going according to? According to the way the Gemara understands this braisa is exactly talking about the machlokes of Rabba and Rava. When you have a change of mind, or you realize your mistake in a neder, not a change of mind, but when you realize a mistake in a neder, What happens now? Do I say the whole neder falls apart only when you change the lashon, or even if you don't change the lashon? So the Gemara now says, if we're going to be going according to Rabbi's opinion, so Rabbi says that the machloik is between Rabbi Akiva and the Rabbanon regarding this halacha of the whole neder falling apart is when? Only when you actually say that you would have changed the lashon. So then I will have to say that Reisha Rabbi Akiva, the Reisha that's speaking about the case where the person said he would have changed the whole lashon of the neder, that's only Rabbi Akiva. According to Rabbi Akiva, the whole neder becomes mutter. The Seifer Divrei HaKol. In the Seifer that it says that he's not changing the lashon of the neder, and therefore the neder remains a neder, that is going to go according to everybody. According to Rabbi, if you when you discover your mistake, but you would not change the lashon of the neder, everybody agrees that whatever mistake you made is not part of the neder, but the mistake you did not make remains a neder. So the Seifer will be according to everybody. Even Rabbi Akiva agrees. Now, Yile Rava, but according to what Rava said earlier in the Gemara, it comes out the exact opposite. Rava says that in the case where they change, where the person says, I would have changed the language of my neder, everybody agrees that the whole neder falls apart. In a case where the person discovers his mistake and he would not change the language of his neder, that's where there's a machlokes. So therefore, Yile Rava, according to Rava, Seifer Rabbanon, in the Seifer where it's speaking about the person that would not change the language of his neder, and still the Seifer says that only the part of the neder that he wants to now, when he realizes his mistake, that part is mutter, the rest is still aser, that's only according to the Rabbanan. Rabbi Akiva disagrees. Rabbi Akiva says, according to Rava, as soon as you realize your mistake, the whole neder falls apart. So therefore the Seifer is only the Rabbanan. And in the Reisha, where not only he realized his mistake of his neder, but he also says, I would have said a completely different lashon for my neder. So the Reisha, according to Rava, goes according to everybody. Since you would have changed the lashon of the neder, everybody agrees that the whole neder falls apart. Okay, this is the conclusion of the sugya of neder shehutim b'ktsasei huta koleh. Let's continue. Zok Eilige Mishneh Nidrei Einsin. So this is the next category. I think this is the last one, right? The last of the 4 kinds of Nedarim that it mentioned, that these are Nedarim that don't take effect at all. You don't even need to go to a Chacham to request a heter. So the last one was Nidrei Einsin. A person makes a neder with a certain condition, but then an Einis happened, and therefore the neder will not take effect. So what's the story here? This was quoted before in the Gemara. A neder was made when you invited someone to eat with you. Now a neder was made that if he doesn't eat by you, then there'll be a neder that will take effect. Now, if you remember, the Gemara quoted this before. The way it would seem, the simple pshat of this Mishnah is that the person that invited made this neder. So someone's trying to invite someone and he wants to make sure that he's going to join him. So he says, if you're not going to join me, I'm making a neder that you won't be able to have any anah from me forever. That's what it seems like the Mishnah is saying here. But we learned before in the Gemara that that's not the pshat in this Mishnah, because in such a case where the person that's inviting is making such a neder, that would already fall into the category of nidrei zeruzin. If you remember, nidrei zeruzin means you're making a neder where you're trying to motivate someone to do something, but the neder is not really serious. So if the one that's inviting is making this neder, he's just trying to motivate the guy that he invited to actually join him. So therefore, that's not what our Mishnah is talking about. Rather, here when it talks about nidrei einsin, it's talking about the person that got invited. He is so desperate to make sure that he's actually going to make it and come and join. He's making a neder and saying that if I will not end up joining you, then I will be asur on you, or maybe he said you will be asur on me. But he placed a neder on this act that he will actually join in order to be sure that he'll come and join. So this the Mishnah says.
The one who's
got invited.
Guest is making
the guest,
it,
correct.
Or the guest is telling the balabastim, let's say it.
No, the guest himself is making the neder. He's making the neder.
It's also in the Zeruzan. He's being mezaris himself to make sure that he fulfills the.
No, but over here, in this case, it's not called nidrei zeruzin. He's serious about this neder. In other words, he actually wants to come. He wants to make sure. He's making a neder for himself. He's not. Zeruzin is only when you're trying to be mezaris someone else, right? If you remember, like in a transaction, in a sale where the moich is trying to be mezaris, the lekech. When a person is making a neder to be mezaris himself, that's not called nidrei zeruzin. That's like every neder. When a person makes a neder for himself,
to make sure that he keeps
right, for himself. That's yeah. So over here, the person that got invited is making a neder that I'll be asur if I don't come. So what happened? V'chala who the person got sick. Or his son got sick, He wanted to come, but there was a river that didn't allow him to, couldn't get across the river to come and join for the meal. So in such a case, these are all Nedarim where even though he said, if I don't join you, then the neder should take effect, but it's something out of his control, it's an einus, and therefore the neder will not take effect. Sagt the Gemara, Hahu Gavra. There was an individual that here we're speaking about a dinteira, two people had an argument, a money dispute, and they came to Bezdin, and one person is trying to prove that he's right, but he needs to find the witnesses that say that he's right, and he has to have time to find those witnesses. But Bezdin is concerned that this person is stam procrastinating, and he's never going to bring witnesses, he's just procrastinating. So what happens? So this person that says, give me time to find my proofs. So he takes the documents that he does have, which apparently are not enough to prove his case, but he takes those documents that he does have, and he gives it to the Bezdin, and he says to the Bezdin as follows: if I'm not going to come back within 30 days with the proofs, with the witnesses that I have, levatlon hani zachvasoi. So then, these documents that I'm giving you, I'm annulling them, I'm giving up my rights to use them to collect anything I would be able to collect with them. So in other words, he's putting this like a mashkin, he's putting this on the line in order for Bezdin to realize that he's serious, that he's not just playing around and trying to delay and just get himself time, and he's never going to end up paying. So this is what the person said. I said, no, what happened? Itnes v'layasa. An oinus occurred, something out of his control, and he didn't arrive within 30 days. So those documents he gave to Bezdin, they are nullified, he can't use them. He said, if I don't come within 30 days, I can't use these documents. Now, something happened out of his control, and this person's screaming, it's an oinus, I wanted to come. Doesn't matter. Rav Huna says, you didn't arrive in time, it's a bottle, you can't use those documents anymore. Amalei Rave, or according to other versions, Rabbe said to Rav Huna, but onesu, it's the oinus, he's out of his control. Why should these documents be null and void? And v'anos rachmana patre, you know b'chlal anything in the Torah where a person does something and he does a certain punishment he should get for this. But if it was out of his control, he's pater. The source of the idea of oinus rachmana patre comes from the pasuk where it says v'lanara le'sasa davar. If a man came and attacked a girl and went and had a relation with her against her will, so for sure she's not chayiv any punishment for what happened there because she was screaming and no one heard her. It's just out of her control. And from there we learn, from this V'lanara L'Sasa Davar, we learn out to all of Torah that anything that's out of your control, you pater. So here as well, when this person says, I give up my rights to use these documents, but if he arrived late and it was out of his control, why should he lose his rights? Now, if you'll argue and say, Katala Shani, maybe there from that pasuk, V'lanara L'Sasa Davar, it's talking about being mechayiv someone misa, and you say that because the act she did was out of her control, so for sure she gets no punishment. She gets no punishment of misa for this. But who says that this idea that an oinus, that if something happens with an oinus, so then the result of it is not your responsibility, who says that that applies over here in this case when there's an oinus that the person couldn't make it on time? Maybe this is something that the person should have specified in the condition that he said. Right? After all, he made over here this condition. He said, if I don't arrive in time, then Bezdin can take my documents and it's null and void. Maybe this is something that the person should have thought about. And yeah, oinus could happen. True, it's something that's out of your control when it happens, but he should have included that in his condition in the beginning. So maybe over here it doesn't apply. But now the Gemara brings what it said in our Mishnah. But Vatnan, in our Mishnah it said, Nidre Yainsin, person makes a neder, and he makes up that he's going to come, he's going to join this person for a meal, and it was an oinus. He couldn't come, he was sick, his son was sick, or river didn't allow him to come. So the neder, because this oinus happened, so the whole neder does not take effect. So over here as well, you could argue and say, well, the person should have taken that into account in the beginning. You should have made clear when he made this condition that not if an oinus happens, but it doesn't say that. If an oinus happens, even though he didn't specify this in the beginning, the neder does not take effect. So I should say the same thing over here. When this person gave his documents over to Bezdin and he said, if I don't come, they're null and void, even though he didn't specify not if an oinus happens, it doesn't matter. But once an oinus occurred, these documents should still be usable for him. So the Gemara asks on this. Okay, so here we have a machlokes between Rav Huna and Rave, or other Rabbe, in such a situation where a person makes a certain condition and he doesn't specify not an oinus, but an oinus occurs. What happens now? Do we say because an oinus occurred, the condition does not apply, Or do we say it doesn't matter? Even if it's an Einis, since he did not specify this from the beginning, so then too bad. The condition was fulfilled and the neder should take effect. Well, in our Mishnah, it does not take effect. But over here, benigay to this case of these documents, the documents will become null and void. Now the Gemara asks, but according to Rabbe, this idea of an Einis that occurs in a situation where you made a condition. So what is the difference from this halacha that it says regarding a get? A person says, this is a get, he gives a wife a get, and he says, this is your get from now. If he's leaving, he leaves out of town, and he says, if I do not come back for 12 months, so then this get should take effect. And what happened? So over here again, you have a condition, but then an Einis happened. He didn't arrive within 12 months, but what happened? Why didn't he arrive? Because he passed away. The get takes effect because the condition was fulfilled. He didn't arrive within 12 months. So the question is, why does this get take effect? Amai v'hamenes itnes. But the fact that he didn't show up within 12 months is because it was an Einis. He couldn't come. He passed away. So according to Rabbi, that says that if an Einis occurs, then we don't consider this to be the fulfillment of his condition he made. So over here we should say, if he passed away, he didn't fulfill the condition of not arriving within 12 days. He passed away. So the Gemara answers, they said, you can't compare that case. This case of the get is different when he passes away because when this person made the condition, if I don't show up for 12 months, the get should take effect. If he would know that he would pass away, so he would have given her a get right away. Usually we assume in such a situation, when a person's leaving out of town and he gives his wife a get, why does a person give his wife a get before he leaves out of town? Because he doesn't want it to be stuck. If it's a person that doesn't have any children, he doesn't want it to be stuck for the mitzvah of Yibum, and then she could have problems. So therefore he says, if I don't show up, so then you'll have a get and you'll be free and clear to get married to whoever you want. So over here, the fact that he passed away, we know for sure that this was his intention, that the get should take effect immediately. So therefore, even though this is an Einis, but what kind of Einis is it? That he passed away. So for sure he wants the get to take effect, may achshav from the beginning, and his wife should be able to get married. So there's no question from there. But the Gemara still asks, what's the difference from the following story that happened? There was an individual that said to them, here's the get I'm giving you for my wife. If I don't show up for the next 30 days, lahevi gita. So then the get should take effect. Same idea, same story, but over here it was 30 days. But what happened over here? He didn't pass away. Another Einis happened. Also, within 30 days, the last day the person arrives, Paske Mabra, and there was a river and he couldn't get through. Mabra, some say it was a ferry that was coming, and the ferry was on the other side of the river, and he couldn't come with his ferry on time. It was right by Shkia. It came the last moment, and he couldn't make it on time. In other places it says Mabra is a bridge. The bridge was down, and he couldn't come through. Amalohusay screaming to the people on the other side of the river, Chazuda soy, see I'm coming, I'm here. And it's just the Einis that I can't get it into the city. Shmuel said, Lo Shmei Masya. This is not considered that he arrived, and therefore he said if he doesn't arrive within 30 days, the get will take effect. The condition was fulfilled, he didn't arrive. Amai, but the question on Rabbi is, why do I say this? Vahamein is honest. We clearly see that he's here, and it's just that there's something out of his control, and he couldn't make it. According to Rabbi, when there's an Einis, we don't consider that to be the fulfillment of the condition. So why is this different? So we're going back to the story before. We should say the same thing with the person that gave the document to the Bezdin, and then an Einis happened. So Rabbi said, if an Einis happened, the document is still good. But over here we see that even if an Einis happened, the condition is fulfilled and the get takes effect. What's the difference?
Somebody comes late to it's called an Einis.
Again, someone comes.
Somebody comes late to the mikvah, it's called an Einis. Somebody comes late to yeshiva, it's called an Einis.
So over here it's something that's, let's see what the Gemara answers. What's considered to be an Einis, right? If a person says, I was delayed in traffic, is that an Einis? Yeah. Oh, so let's take a look, right, what the Gemara answers. Well, so the Gemara answers, Dilme, perhaps this is not exactly a typical Einis. Why? Einze, the Megalia Shani, an Einis which is apparent to people that this could happen, this is a different kind of an Einis. And the Gemara says, Ume'abre, this, that the ferry was on the other side of the river, or that the bridge was down, Migali. This is Migali Einse. This is a kind of Einis that you could expect that it could happen. In other words, yeah, true, the person came and he really wanted to come. You waited to the last moment, you came the last second, and the ferry is on the other side of the river, and now you're screaming, see, I came. Why didn't you come a little earlier? Why didn't you come when the ferry was on your side of the river? This is not considered to be an einus. That's basically what the Gemara is saying. But going back to the case before, Rabbi will argue in the case where the person put his documents in the Bezdin, and a real einus happened. Not this type of an einus. Something really happened. He got sick. Something that he couldn't expect. Over there, the documents will still be usable. Now the Gemara asks on Rav Huna. What did Rav Huna say? That the person said that if I don't show up within a certain amount of time, so then I give up my rights to use these documents. And Rav Huna said, even if an einus occurred, he can't use them. Okay, but the Gemara asks him this from a different angle. The question on Rav Huna is, Mechti, let's see. When a person says such a thing, this is what's called asmachtahi. Asmachta means when a person is saying to his friend that if I don't do so and so, so then I give up my rights. What does asmachta mean? He's relying, really when the person says so, he's relying on the fact that he will be able to show up. So he's not really serious with what he's saying, because he's relying that he will make it. And in such a case, when a person says something like this, and he's really relying on the fact that he will make it, so he didn't really mean it. And therefore the whole kinyan doesn't really take effect. So how could you say over here that the person says, if I don't show up, then the documents are actually null and void? It's just an asmachta. He was expecting to show up. And says the Gemara, Shani Hacha. Over here, he's not just saying something to the Bezdin or saying something to his friend. If I don't do so and so, then you'll be able to have this and this. That's not what he's saying. Over here, it's different. The mitvus and zechusei. He actually is giving us the physical documents. If he's not just saying this, but he's giving over the physical documents, we know that he really meant it. That's something that's much more significant. In fact, the Gemara, is that true? Once he gives over the documents, is this significant? The mitvesen. Once he's giving over the documents, lav asmachti, is this not just considered to be something where the person says and is relying that will never come to be, and therefore the kinyan does not take effect? But vatnan, we learned in the Mishnah, Baba Basra, misha para miktzas chayve. Person paid part of his loan. So now what happens? The loan that the Malva had to collect money, let's say the amount that it said in the loan was $1,000. But now he paid half of the loan. He doesn't want the Malva to keep that same document because he's going to collect the full amount again. He only owes him $500 now. So what does he do? He says, let's keep this document in the hands of a third individual. And then he says, and he says, if I won't pay up my loan within 30 days, 10 loy shtarei. So then you can give him back his shtar, and I won't have to pay, and I won't collect anything. I won't.
He'll have to pay.
Then I'll have to pay the whole thing. Sorry, yeah. And then what happened? The time arrived, and he did not pay. Rabbi Yosi says yite, and Rabbi Yosi says because you said that if after these 30 days you're going to pay the whole thing, you have to pay the whole thing. Rabbi Yehuda says no, lo yite. Then you don't have to give it. No, I'm not talking about an einus over here.
Ribbis.
Ribbis. I'm sorry. Okay, so the Gemara says he doesn't have to pay. Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman says on this. In the name of Rav. Ein alachik Rabbi Yosi. We do not paskin like Rabbi Yosi here. The Omar that said over here, asmachte kanye, that he was relying on the fact that he would show up. And even in such a case where the person was relying, but nevertheless, since you said so, since you said that if I don't show up, then I'll have to pay the whole thing, Kanye, what you said takes effect. We don't paskin like Rabbi Yosi. So what do we see over here? That even in such a case where you gave over the document, you didn't just say, if I don't pay it up now, so within this period of time, then I'll have to pay the whole thing. You actually gave over the document as well. But nevertheless, we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda that says that it still doesn't take effect. And since the Gemara, Shani Hacha, still over here, in the story that we were speaking about over here, this person gave the documents to the Bezdin. It's different because the Omar Levatlon Zechusei. Over here, the person said that he's being Mevatl his whole schus, that these documents should have absolutely no validity to them at all. And this is stronger than giving your documents to an individual, giving a shtar to an individual. When you give it to the Bezdin and you say that my document should be null and void, that has the kayach that it's not considered to be like a regular asmachta that's not kaina, but over here the asmachta will be kaina. The Gemara concludes this halacha here. The final halacha regarding this idea of a person that makes a kinyan, or the person says, if so and so happens, then I'm giving up my rights. Does that take effect or not? Sorry, asmachte kanya. When a person says this, so then the asmachte, it will be kaina, but with the following conditions. V'hu d'loi onis, but that's only if the condition was fulfilled and happened without any onis, without anything that was beyond his control. And also v'hu d'konomine, you have to have made a kinyan right now. Yeah, he made some kind of a kinyan. Usually this is speaking about a kinyan that you make chalipin, you take a handkerchief, you make a kinyan today. You're not just saying words, but you're actually making a kinyan that it should take effect right now. And also, v'hu d'konomine bebezin choshev. The kinyan has to be in a prominent bezdin, not just between one person and another, but it has to be in a proper bezdin. According to some Rishonim, when the Gemara here says these three details, it means dafke when you have all three. Not an einus, with a kinyan, and in a bezdin. Only then, when a person says something like this, if I don't show up, then these documents should be null and void, then you say that kinyan takes effect. But if you're missing one of these three conditions, so then the asmachta is not
We're
kinyan.
missing one of these three conditions. So it's not taking effect.